At this year's State of the Sport address, NASCAR execs gush about the current playoff format, discuss ongoing TV and charter negotiations, and admit they have developed an electric stock car. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I just got done watching the annual NASCAR State of the Sport press conference. Every year, usually on championship weekend, NASCAR President Steve Phelps answers some of the industry's most burning questions. Before we react to many of the most interesting and relevant responses, let's talk about today's sponsor, 1821 Man-Made. 1821 Man-Made offers top-shelf grooming goods for the aspiring gentleman because a well-groomed man feels self-assured with confidence in spades to take on the day ahead. Inspired by Prohibition-era bootleggers, the 1821 Barrel House empowers men to be the gentleman they deep down aspire to be. I'm a big fan of their Man-Made wash. It comes in 4 different legendary scents, and you can't go wrong with the signature scents of their Spirits Spritzer. Head on over to 1821manmade.com to pick up some of these premium products for yourself and to take advantage of their Black Friday sale. The entire site is 30% off right now and will be through the end of November. So head on over to 1821manmade.com or click the top link down in the description below. Thanks to 1821 for sponsoring the show. So much to get to. Both the Steves, Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell, spoke to the media at Phoenix Raceway today. Where to start? I guess let's start with where President Steve Phelps felt was good to start. After congratulating Eric Almirola and Kevin Harvick on their successful careers, Steve Phelps immediately began talking about NASCAR's current playoff format. And he directly addressed the critics who've called the format too gimmicky.
We're going to have a playoff system that I believe is the toughest in sports. Think about the variety that our drivers had to go through, right? They raced on dirt, they raced on concrete, they raced on asphalt, they raced on short tracks, street courses, road courses, super speedways. Is there another racing series on the planet that can say that? I don't think there is. And I've heard some things that were people was like, hey, listen, this is gimmicky, and when it's not. It's an incredible playoff system that rewards the best drivers in our sport.
Overall, I'm a fan of the current format, or at least I have been since 2017, since stage points, playoff points were introduced. That being said, in my opinion, this format does have 2 significant flaws. The first flaw, in my opinion, is the one-race championship. NASCAR is too unpredictable. There are too many variables at play for the season-long champion to be determined ultimately by one race, and a fairly short race at that. 312 laps, 312 miles around Phoenix Raceway, one of the shortest races of the season. And 2, this playoff format is very complicated, very confusing, especially to new fans. Oh, so there are rounds now, and the points reset at the end of every round, but not to 0. They reset back to how many playoff points you have? Okay. And you get playoff points by winning stages, and winning races. And also it's based on where you finished in the points at the end of the regular season. If you watch every week or even most weeks, you've probably figured it out by now. But if you're just now getting into the sport, trying to get the hang of things, maybe you're not able to watch every week, it's easy to lose track and honestly lose interest. I'm not sure if a 3-race final round is practical, but I think it's worth considering. I think Dale Jr. brought that idea up earlier in the summer. Otherwise, I'm a fan of this playoff format. I think by and large, it has gotten the championship 4 correct nearly every single year. People will point to Kevin Harvick in 2020. Sure, that may be the lone exception. But even this year, you look at the 4 drivers who made it, Larson, Bell, Blaney, Byron. Those 4 have earned the most points since the playoffs began. And obviously, William Byron had a tremendous regular season. Blaney was nearly unstoppable in the round of 8 when everyone was bringing their best equipment. I don't think there's any driver this year who's not deserving of being in the championship 4. Not everyone will agree. That's just my opinion. You heard Steve Phelps' opinion. He does not believe this format is too gimmicky, or gimmicky at all for that matter. He seems to resent that word, and I don't blame him. I think a lot of NASCAR naysayers have thrown that word NASCAR's way as an insult. So I'm not surprised that executives would be a little sensitive to gimmick, the G word. Moving on, Steve Phelps then addressed the ongoing TV media rights negotiations. And he didn't go into too many specifics, didn't really say anything we didn't already know, other than he expressed confidence that they may be close to finalizing an agreement.
We believe that we're going to have a very strong result with media partners that will look at a combination of broadcast, cable, and streaming to some degree. What that looks like, I don't know. Are we getting towards the end of this process? We are. Did I think that we would have a result earlier? I did. But we haven't. It's an incredibly competitive marketplace. But with that said, I want to assure all our race fans, anyone who's listening, and certainly the media corps here, we have had tremendous interest in our sport.
I saw a report earlier today, as a matter of fact, that included quotes from Fox's CEO. He sounds very happy with NASCAR, believes Fox is getting a great return on investment, so expect Fox to return in 2025. Sports Business Journal has reported that NBC will likely return as well. The question is that 6-week summer stretch in the middle of the season, NASCAR wants to farm that out to Amazon or some sort of streaming platform. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Based on what the CW just paid for the Xfinity series, I think many in the industry expect Fox, NBC, whomever, to pay more for NASCAR this next time around than they do under the current agreement. So, at least from NASCAR's perspective, that should be a win. But those negotiations are not yet complete. NASCAR just likes the direction they're moving in. In a similar vein, Steve Phelps then discussed the ongoing negotiations with the race teams. The TV deal expires at the end of 2024, but at the end of this year, the charter agreement expires. NASCAR and the teams either need to agree to extend the current deal or alter it. These two sides have been pretty far apart for a while now. Steve Phelps said the TV deal likely needs to be agreed upon before NASCAR and the teams can solidify the next charter agreement.
We're currently having discussions with our race teams. So we had a meeting last Wednesday with a team owner council where the entirety of the meeting was about charters and charter extensions. And we've acknowledged that we want to change the paradigm for our race teams. And we need to make sure our race teams are profitable. We need to make sure our race teams are competing on the racetracks. And we are interested in having their enterprise value climb, as I had said earlier. So no timeline, but we are, as we're finalizing our media rights, we are talking about other portions of what our charters would look like that are not financial.
So both talks are still ongoing, but again, TV probably needs to be signed first, then NASCAR can make a deal with the teams. But they're continuing those discussions, and actually Sports Business Journal's Adam Stern reported earlier today that at least half of NASCAR team owners came away encouraged by their most recent talks with NASCAR. So hopefully that's a good sign. Although Steve Phelps today, again, refused to answer whether NASCAR is in favor of making the charter system permanent or if they're against that idea, which previous reports have suggested.
I would say that I'm confident that the teams in NASCAR will come to an agreement that's going to be fair for race teams, fair for NASCAR, and help grow the sport. And I think that's what we're going to do.
Maybe I'm reading too much into Steve Phelps' response there, but I don't see the teams budging. They need the charter agreement to be made permanent. It protects the millions of dollars they've already invested. Look, I understand it's highly unlikely that anytime in the near future NASCAR would just revoke the charters just like that. It would render millions of dollars worth of investment by the teams absolutely worthless. If that happened, the teams would revolt. There probably would be a split. But I don't blame the teams for wanting to get this in writing. You will not revoke our charters. Let's make the charters permanent. I just don't see any way the teams budge there. They may have to make some sacrifices elsewhere to get NASCAR on board, but making the charter system permanent, at this point, I just don't see any other solution. I do think this is something NASCAR is going to have to cave on. The teams may have to make sacrifices elsewhere. Maybe they will have to agree to an official cost cap. We'll see. That's a lot of business stuff. Let's get to the competition side of things. That's Steve O'Donnell's specialty. O'Donnell admitted that the road course and short track racing product is still not where NASCAR wants it to be.
Short track road courses, you've seen some improvements that we've looked at. Not exactly where we want to be, but Goodyear and our partnerships worked really well. You got to factor in, what are the costs involved as well, right? It's not as simple as just upping the horsepower. You better be ready for all of your OEs to be on board. It better make sense for any potential new OEM and new technology, and it's not just a short-term answer. So for us, I think we're going to look at shifting specifically around that at our next test and see what we can do. So there'll be variations. There'll also be some aero things we do with the underbody. I think there's some things we found in Richmond from an aero standpoint that could work as well. So
you can kind of tell in that clip, it sounds like NASCAR is still very reluctant to touch the horsepower. NASCAR is expected to test some big things at Phoenix Raceway just after the finale this weekend, but don't get your hopes up for 750 or 800 horsepower next season or anytime in the near future. Honestly, it sounds like, and we'll talk about this more in a moment, anything engine related is kind of in flux right now. Somewhat off topic here, but I know this is something many are interested in. Steve Phelps confirmed that demolition has begun at Club Speedway.
I would say yes. I will confirm that demolition has begun. I would say that we are still planning on building a short track in Fontana. What the timing of that, I don't know. This isn't the best time to be building based on inflation, the cost of capital, et cetera. But our intention is to continue to be in the Southern California market.
There really is no easy solution to this problem. I don't blame NASCAR for selling off a bunch of Club Speedway's land. That land was incredibly valuable. They got paid. I can't blame them for that. The problem, though, is that now they do not have a permanent racetrack in the second largest media market in the country. They're going to do the Clash at the Coliseum again next year. That's an exhibition race. That's something, but for the time being, that's NASCAR's only Los Angeles presence. Hopefully they're able to revisit those Auto Club short track plans again sooner rather than later, but right now that's still a huge question mark, unfortunately. Getting back to the competitive side of things, Steve O'Donnell confirmed that NASCAR has developed an electric vehicle, an electric NASCAR.
Yeah, a lot of work's gone on at the R&D department around EV. We have a car. We have an alternative body style with that car. I would not look for us specifically to go racing with it. I think you could see it showcased at certain events next year, but there's other forms that we want to look at. I'm actually headed to Japan Thursday to go look at hydrogen racing specifically. So we've got a contingent heading over to Japan to look at that. So we want to kind of test each and every form.
This was news to me. I mean, there have been reports like a year, 2 years ago that NASCAR was considering developing an electric vehicle series to serve as sort of an exhibition, companion event. That project ultimately didn't get far off the ground, at least for the time being. But yeah, I had no idea they had developed an electric car with a unique body style. But you heard in that clip, Steve O'Donnell does not expect to race this car anytime soon. We may see it at the track or in certain NASCAR events for promotional and maybe educational purposes. So it is something, but hold your horses. This doesn't mean NASCAR's going all electric anytime soon. I think any dramatic change like that is still many, many years away. Steve O'Donnell addressed why it's been difficult to try and get a fourth manufacturer into the NASCAR Cup Series.
The challenge remains for us, what engine package are we going to be running specifically around Cup? So the good news is all of our existing OEs are very open to dialogue now about where the new technologies are going. And I think as everybody here reads about the auto industry, it's in flux, right? There's a lot of technologies being looked at. Things change almost monthly in terms of what's going to be in the hands of consumers. So we need to get that right. I think the dialogue that we're having now with our OEs is allowing us to have those conversations with potential new partners. It's part of the trip that when we go over to Japan to look at that, it was part of the trip when we went to Le Mans to have conversations with new OEs.
If real-world stock cars eventually change enough, I think racing stock cars will need to evolve as well. Like I said earlier, I think we're many years away from any dramatic changes, but it's something that NASCAR fans and more importantly, the NASCAR industry should be aware of. And it sounds like they are, which from a business standpoint is a good thing. Now, the last topic I want to cover, and this took up a good portion of the press conference, quite honestly, driver star power. How can drivers help grow NASCAR's popularity? Both the Steves addressed this. Steve Phelps specifically mentioned NASCAR's new production facility being built in Concord, North Carolina, that will be home to NASCAR studios, and suggested drivers should use these resources to create more content.
We have a brand new production facility that we're building out in Concord next to our R&D facility, which will have two main components to it. Will be kind of the live broadcast component of it, and then something we call NASCAR Studios, which essentially is content. So we think the opportunity to create content, interesting content, whether it's short form or series like what we're doing with Netflix or whatever that may be, to serve fans where they are is an important component to it.
I think this topic is particularly relevant right now when you look at our current Championship 4. Just yesterday, Ryan Blaney was kind of joking about how none of the 4 drivers have any bad blood between each other. There's no juicy storylines there for the media to harp on. And some see that as a bad thing. And in a way, it is. It was a lot more interesting back in 2011 to listen to Tony Stewart trash talk Carl Edwards. But while sure, this year's championship battle may be missing that key ingredient, it's important that NASCAR does not try to force conflict where it does not exist. When you have a championship 4 like this one, the focus should be on the drivers, their skill, and honestly their journey, how they got to this point. Obviously, Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson, for a good portion there, were dirt rivals. William Byron's career started on a computer. Dave Blaney. Each of these drivers got here a different way, but no matter the route they took, they all got here by winning a lot. That's the angle we should be focusing on. The future is now. Again, this is the youngest Championship 4 in the 10 years of the Championship 4 existing. The guard has finally changed. These are NASCAR's current stars. They may not be the most outspoken or controversial, but like Steve Phelps mentioned in his press conference today, they all expect to win.
I don't think that any of those 4 drivers in any of the 4 series is just going to lay over and let someone win. They're not going to. They put the helmets on, they strap in, and it's game on. And that's what they do. And they do it better than anyone in the world.
If you're NASCAR, the focus shouldn't be, how do we get these drivers more angry with each other? The focus instead should be, how can we make the on-track product as comprehensive and compelling as we possibly can? A lot of that responsibility falls on Fox, NBC. I think Netflix with this, Race to the Championship docuseries, whatever they're going to call it, they can insert the melodrama as they wish. But in real time, when covering the sport, the focus should be on the skill, the journey. Don't try to manufacture melodrama where it does not exist. Fans see through that. I think that's what we've learned over the past 5, 10, 15 years or so. But it is a difficult balance. We've covered a lot in this episode. Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell covered a lot in their press conference earlier today. But share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Anything stick out to you in particular? There are a few interesting quotes and sound bites I didn't react to in this video. Did they say anything today that surprised you, that had you questioning things? Let me know down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. It's championship weekend. Lots of content coming your way over the next 72 hours or so. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. Truck Series Championship will be decided tonight, tomorrow evening, the Xfinity Series, and then Cup on Sunday. I will see you all again later this weekend. Have a good one.